Today, we're cracking open a guide to persuasion so powerful and so controversial, it's been called everything from a masterpiece to a straight-up manual for manipulation.
Robert Greene uses this quote to set the stage, and wow, what a way to start. He's basically telling us from page 1 to forget everything we think we know about romance. In his world, seduction isn't about hearts and flowers. It's a powerful, primal force of nature, a game played totally beyond our everyday ideas of right and wrong. It's a provocative start that perfectly captures the strategic and kind of amoral tone of the whole book.
So yeah, we're unlocking the blueprint of Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction. And just to be clear, this isn't a book about finding true love in the way you might think. Instead, Greene argues that seduction is actually the most subtle, the most elusive, and ultimately the most effective form of power there is.
Okay, so what's the core idea? Well, Greene argues that in the modern world, you can't just bully your way to the top. Brute force is clumsy and obvious. The real tool of influence, he says, is seduction. It's the art of persuading people indirectly, of making the process so pleasurable that they feel like they're choosing to follow you all on their own.
The book makes this crucial distinction right away. Seduction is not about having the best looks. Nope, it's a game of psychology. The goal is to create a sense of enchantment, to stir up deep emotions, to make someone fall in love. And why is that? Because a person in love is pliable. They lose their ability to think rationally and willingly surrender to your influence. And that, my friends, is way more powerful than just creating lust.
So, if seduction is a game, you have to know the players, right? And that's exactly where Greene's framework begins, by breaking down what he calls the seductive characters.
He identifies 9 distinct archetypes. That's 9 different paths to seduction. You've got the siren, the rake, the charismatic, the star. Each one leverages a unique character trait that naturally draws people in. The whole point, according to Greene, is to find the one that resonates with your own personality and learn how to amplify those qualities.
To really get a feel for this, let's zoom in on one of the most powerful archetypes in the book, the siren. Greene describes the siren as the ultimate fantasy figure, someone who offers a complete escape from the boring responsibilities and logic of everyday life. She represents pure, heightened pleasure.
And who does Greene use as his prime example? You guessed it, none other than Cleopatra. He frames her as the ultimate spectacular siren, a woman who seduced not with conventional beauty, but with pure, unapologetic theater.
I mean, just think about it for a second. This is a woman who had herself smuggled in to meet Julius Caesar, rolled up in a carpet. For Mark Antony, she shows up on a golden barge dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. Her power wasn't her face. It was her ability to create a nonstop spectacle. She was a living fantasy, always changing, always keeping these incredibly powerful men completely captivated and just a little bit off balance.
Then you have the more modern sex siren, and for this he points to Marilyn Monroe. Her power, according to Greene, came from this carefully crafted mix of overt, almost overwhelming sexuality combined with a kind of childlike innocence. It was a total paradox that men just found irresistible.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Greene breaks the siren's power down into practical, almost learnable skills. This isn't magic. It's about cultivating a certain kind of voice, calm, unhurried, suggestive. It's about using your appearance, your clothes, to create a dazzling, almost goddess-like effect. And it's about how you move, gracefully, never in a rush, hinting at a life that's all about pleasure. All these things together create this powerfully distracting and alluring presence.
Okay, so once you've figured out your seductive character, what's the actual game plan? Well, the second part of the book lays out a very clear step-by-step model, the seductive process. Greene structures this whole thing like a 4-phase campaign. And just listen to the language. Separation, lead astray, moving in for the kill. It sounds like a military operation, right? And that's intentional. The whole point is to systematically lower a target's defenses, first by isolating them, then confusing them with pleasure, and finally inducing a complete psychological surrender.
So, you might be wondering why this cynical-sounding playbook is still so popular. Well, Greene argues it's because these tactics have moved far beyond the bedroom. In his view, they become a kind of modern art of war for everyday life.
Greene says these very same strategies are fundamental to how we persuade people today in all sorts of areas. Just think of the charisma of a politician like John F. Kennedy, or the soft sell in advertising that appeals to our desires and emotions, not our logic. It's all about creating an alluring fantasy that people want to buy into.
And this quote from the book's preface just nails the argument. These ancient techniques of psychological manipulation, the stuff that was perfected by people like Cleopatra, are now at the very core of modern power. Influence, Greene says, is no longer about force. It's all about charm and appeal.
Ultimately, the art of seduction leaves us with this central, kind of unsettling question. It forces us to re-examine what we think we know about influence, about desire, and about power. Is it just a manual for manipulation, or is it simply revealing the hidden psychological currents that drive how we all interact? One thing's for sure, once you see the patterns, you might just start to notice them everywhere.